Subjectively useless. Why praxeology and ordinal utility fail to count. There's a curious religion in economics that insists we should model decision-making without ever counting. Its apostles call it praxeology, its gospel is subjective value, and its holy relic is ordinal utility, a ladder of preferences with no meaningful rungs. This cult doesn't believe in measuring the intensity of wants, or aggregating trade-offs, or modeling strategy under uncertainty. No, its adherents believe that economics should be value-free, while paradoxically defending liberty as an axiom. They reject empirical validation, and instead prefer a tautological metaphysics where man acts is the one sacred truth, and all knowledge flows deductively from that ontological gospel. It's a framework so elegant, it never has to prove anything. Because it never says anything. Let's be blunt. Subjective value theory in its ordinal form is epistemologically castrated. And praxeology is a toy box for ideologues who are afraid of math, feedback loops, and actual productivity. Ordinal utility, the art of counting without numbers. Austrians proudly reject cardinal utility, the idea that utility differences can be measured and compared. They argue that only preference orderings matter, that we can say, I prefer A to B, but not how much, or by what ratio. This would be fine if humans lived in a deterministic world with no risk, no uncertainty, and no need to evaluate trade-offs between outcomes of unequal consequence. But enter von Neumann and Morgenstern, who prove that under a few rational axioms, agents facing lotteries must behave as if they are maximizing a cardinal utility function. Not an arbitrary one, but one that is unique up to a positive affine transformation. This isn't numerology, it's the foundation of expected utility theory, and the only coherent way to talk about decision-making under uncertainty. Austrian economists reject this not because it's wrong, but because it's inconvenient to their ideology. To admit cardinal utility is to admit value can be meaningfully measured, modeled, and ultimately optimized. But optimization would mean some values are better than others, which threatens their theological commitment to liberty as sacrosanct. Better to reject measurement entirely, and cling to ordinal rankings like medieval scholastics debating angelic hierarchies. Even more fatally, they ignore the fact that the highest price one is willing to pay is a cardinal expression of preference. It reveals not only what is preferred, but how much more it is preferred in terms of foregone alternatives. Every bid in a market is a numerical statement about the marginal utility of a good, measured against other uses of money. And if money measures marginal utility, then markets run on revealed cardinality, not ordinal mysticism. Value-free economics, the most dogmatic dogma. Libertarians often call Austrian economics value-free, as if that makes it more scientific. But this is a laughable inversion of reality. Austrian theory is riddled with value judgments. Liberty is sacred. Coercion is bad. Voluntarism is morally superior. State action is illegitimate. These aren't scientific statements. They're moral articles of faith, unexamined, unjustified, and unmeasured. Worse, praxeology lacks even an internal feedback loop. It doesn't model outcomes. It doesn't predict strategies. It doesn't compare systems. It simply asserts, dogmatically, that action exists and liberty is good, and that's all you're allowed to know. Compare that to evolutionary game theory, which defines payoffs in terms of reproductive fitness or productivity and models how strategies survive or fail over time. Or better yet, general evolutionary game theory, which selects strategies based on their contribution to long-term evolutionary goals. Like solving existential constraints or building the perfect evolutionary being. These frameworks don't have to moralize liberty, they simply outcompete it. Systems that rely on unearned autonomy and unaccountable decision-making get replaced by systems that allocate power according to productivity and strategy. Evolution doesn't ask for permission. It selects what works. And under evolutionary capitalism, even money itself evolves. Over time, money becomes not just a medium of exchange, but a proxy for past productivity. The system refines itself until money is reputation, and reputation reflects the evolutionary value of one's decisions. In this framework, prices become cardinal signals of productive worth, and bids are not merely expressions of preference, but votes in a decentralized evolutionary computation. If what evolutionary capitalism asserts is true, then evolution imposes a singular objective goal on all agents: contribution to evolutionary productivity and long-run survival. Utility is no longer an untouchable private ranking, it becomes interpersonally comparable, because it is tied to a shared, measurable payoff function, advancement toward the PB. In this sense, subjective utility collapses into objective value, filtered through evolutionary pressure. What survives is not just preferred, it is validated. Where Austrians deny measurement, evolutionary capitalism embraces it, improves it, and selects for systems that reward those who produce most towards solving civilization-scale problems. Game theory versus praxeology, models versus mantras. Game theory and praxeology are often contrasted as if they are complementary views on human behavior. They are not. They are philosophical opposites. Game theory assumes agents are strategic, uses cardinal utility and probability, models uncertainty, defines equilibria, makes testable predictions. Praxeology rejects measurement, rejects probability, cannot define strategy, cannot model conflict, produces no predictions at all. Where game theory builds tools to understand how incentives shape behavior and outcomes, praxeology builds a pedestal to preach about liberty. It's a worldview that sees all action as sacred and all intervention as sinful, without ever asking which strategies survive competitive selection. Even more absurdly, praxeology treats liberty as the unchallengeable end goal of all action, yet provides no evolutionary or game-theoretic justification for why liberty would be stable, let alone optimal. In contrast, GGT explains not only which strategies win, but why they persist. It shows how systems evolve under existential constraints, and how morality, coordination, and even aggression can be justified through long-run productivity. Praxeology is stuck in a sandbox of axioms, never daring to confront a world where liberty can fail. Final blow. Economics is about choices. Choices imply trade-offs. Trade-offs imply quantities. And quantities imply cardinal comparisons. If your economic theory can't handle that, you're not doing economics. You're doing theology, and not even a useful one. Praxeology is not a model of reality. It's a rhetorical device designed to defend liberty, regardless of context, productivity, or survival. It doesn't model the world. It moralizes it. And in a competitive universe, moralizing without modeling is suicide.